What are your best examples of people cheating the system? I'll start. Story 1, I work in a typical office building, but today I saw something interesting. Lazy coworker 11 has been leaving around lunchtime to go to the gym. Except I had to get something out of my car and I saw her, in her workout clothes, eating out of a tub of fried chicken. I didn't say anything, but she walked back in 15 minutes later saying how sore she would be tomorrow. She works out every day. My boss has a policy that if you're going to work out, you don't have to clock out, which means lazy coworker Reek 11 essentially gets paid to eat fried chicken in a jogging suit in her minivan. As annoyed as I am, I'm also slightly impressed that she thought of this. Story 2. Back in the day in high school, we had our huge junior term paper to do. Our teacher absolutely required that we have some ridiculous amount of like 100 note cards, all with individual quotes on them, citations from the numerous sources we were supposed to have collected and read for this research paper. Most of us in the class hated this teacher. And she hated most of us, I think. None of us were actually making the 100 note card citations and keeping them in little boxes and then organizing them. It was ridiculous. So when the note card deadline came up in like February or whatever, almost no one had all the note cards. I got busted in class for not having them, and she called my parents and told them to talk with me because she thought I was a druggie burnout who didn't do anything. Actually, I had done like 50 legit cards. But one kid in class had made 0 fucking note cards. The night before, he just made up a shit ton of quotes and fake names and put them on cards and put them in his box. Teacher thinks he's a goody. 2 shoes. So pulls out his box from the pile in the front of the whole class, flips to a random card, and reads the quote, which is 100 made up the night before. It was something like, "We are the molemen. We must make it over that hill. We are the greatest warriors to ever live. General Mole, 1942. We were all like, oh shit, he is fucked. Teacher raises an eyebrow. General Mole, Jonathan? And I shit you not, without skipping a beat, kid replies. Yeah, you mean to tell me you don't know who General Mole is? One of the greatest French generals in World War II. And she's like, oh, puts the card back in the box and moves on to the next person to bust. What a bastard. We all hated him for that shit because he didn't do any of the work we were supposed to. But I still respect him for fucking pulling the wool over that lady's eyes so easily. Wish I could bullshit like that. Story 3. Okay, where to start? My girlfriend runs a salon. One of her employees, we will call her Casey, has a kid with a deadbeat guy. Casey and her man friend are drug addicts and very irresponsible parents. And for all purposes, bottom feeders. The baby is now just over 12 months or so and is diagnosed with cancer. Casey tells my girlfriend she can no longer work because she wants time at home with her son that she had never cared about before this. A week later, Casey revisited the salon and brags about how the state of Ohio is paying her son's medical bills and she doesn't have to pay a dime. Cool deal, I guess. The plot thickens. She has the balls to ask my girlfriend in the same conversation to have a fundraiser for her child's medical bills because Casey cannot afford them. My girlfriend is blown away by this, especially considering Casey quit her job. She politely declines. Casey leaves. A few days later, Casey is on the local news with her deadbeat boyfriend sobbing about how she can't pay the medical bills and cannot find work. She asks people to donate to an account at a local bank. The money is rolling in at this point. Casey appears later at the salon to get a full-service cut and color, nails, and shows off the new clothes she had purchased, etc. And before we know it, her son and her crying mug are all over Facebook and the news. Car washes are being held, spaghetti dinners, donation bins at local businesses, you name it, all to pay for medical bills already being paid by the state of Ohio. A few months pass, and so does the child. Very sad indeed. The day after the funeral, Casey posts on Facebook pictures of her out partying it up at a local club. And soon after, there is a benefit dinner being held for Casey to pay for funeral expenses. and she wants to start a charity for cancer research. Now, this is the short version of the story, but fucked up nonetheless. I've urged my girlfriend to report this to someone, but she hasn't out of fear of retaliation. It's too bad that people play on others' feelings and take advantage of the system like this. Story 4. My boss will often check the date modified on certain files on our server to see if I have updated or even opened a certain file recently. So, I have installed a changer utility that allows me to modify the date modified on any file. This comes in most handy when my boss wants to give me weekend assignments. I just came in on Monday morning and changed the date modified to Saturday night, and he thinks I was actually doing something for work on Saturday night. I've actually received a lot of kudos for this. I don't feel bad though, because my boss is a huge dickhead. Story 5. One day, when I was in college, I was walking through one of the on-campus parking lots back to my dorm when I saw these two guys trying to sell high-quality surround sound systems out of their car. I recognized one of them from my high school. He was a grade older than me and a general putz. Out of curiosity, I listened to their spiel. It was some obviously bogus pitch about how they were installing them in the Whitmore Center, but they ordered too many by accident. Blah, blah. Just looking at the boxes, you could tell they were cheap Chinese knockoffs and worth probably nothing. I could clearly tell they were excited. They had hooked me, so I told them I just had to run over to the me to get the $300 they wanted. After a few minutes, I went back and told them I only had $301 in my checking account, and I needed $3 to deposit first so I could withdraw the $300 and not get hit with an overdraft fee because the different bank app in charge. So foaming at the mouth, they give me $3, and I wander back over to the atom. I ducked around the back and across campus to my dorm. $3 richer, but mostly just entertained that I conned the con men. Story 6. When I was a precociously computer savvy 10-11-year-old, I found a website that parents could set up as a reward system for children doing chores. The parent would set up an account listing several chores and assign them point values. The child, after completing these chores, could then use the points to buy various items offered on the website. There was, somehow, no charge for any of the stuff. So, I created 2 email accounts, 2 passwords on the site, and set up a really generous reward system where I got tons of points for doing imaginary chores. I used this to buy a shitload of Pokemon cards. I then played with my grandpa because I didn't actually have any friends. If anyone remembers anything about this website, I actually tried to find it again years later and couldn't, probably due to the terrible, unsustainable business model. Please share. Story 7. I have a complicated cheating the system on my iPhone. There is a particular app that awards M points whenever you do certain things in the app. The first time you open it each day, when you watch a news stories, that kind of thing, well, those M points you could trade in later for tons of things, including Amazon gift cards. 5x M points was a $5 Amazon gift card. Watching a 10-minute video was worth, in the beginning, about 300 M points. The trick was that you could drag the bar to the end of the video and it would still trigger the M points. Basically, you could make about $5 a minute the first day they opened it. My buddy and I stayed up super late that night and made several $100s in Amazon gift cards that night, which were just a coupon code you attached to your Amazon account. The next morning, they reduced the value from 300 to something like 100 points. Still worth it in that you could make 1/3 of the money, which was essentially free. The final blow was when they reduced the amount to something like 10 points. Then it became too much. In the end, after about a week, we bought 2 high-end gaming computers, parts then assembled. From nearly scratch. We already had a tower and power supply for one, but the other was completely built for free, courtesy. This app was incredible. Story 8. Used to work in a camera store that sold warranties. No matter how the camera broke, they would fix it or replace it under the warranty. The only problem was that the store would ship off the camera to be repaired, sometimes for months, up to 5 times before replacing it. So, let's say your battery cover breaks off. You ship it off, and 6 weeks later it's back. But it's really a brand defect, so the cover pops off again. They won't replace the whole piece or give you another camera. You're out the camera for months while it's being fixed. They keep selling the defective camera and the warranties. I got tired of fucking over customers. I thought it was dishonest. I read the contract myself and found an interesting clause. If the camera was so physically damaged that it was obvious it couldn't be fixed, we could take a pic of it and send that instead. The person immediately got a new camera. When people would come in with a camera with a defect I'd seen 100 times, I'd ask if they just wanted a new one, the next model up, without the defect. They'd say yes, and I'd tell them to take it out into the parking lot and run over it with their car. I'd pile the pieces on the counter, take a pic, and give them their new, non-defective camera. I slept fine. Story 9. My good friends lived in an old converted warehouse apartment building on the north side of Chicago next to the Brown Line. It had a parking lot for the tenants of the building and the businesses on the first floor. The landlord paid attendants, let's call them parking midgets, to basically guard the lot. If you lived there, you could park there, but for everyone else, it was an exorbitant fee. The parking midgets worked from about 8 to 9 p.m. Anyone who's driven in Chicago knows that finding parking is generally a nightmarish, beastly experience. Anyway, I'd hang out with my buddies in this building a good deal. Their apartment was nice and big. We'd play music and drink tequila, sometimes until 6 in the morning. The way I worked it was, I'd pull into this lot right after the parking midgets had gone home on a Friday night, then leave it there all weekend until they left on Sunday. They never saw me enter the lot and thus could never charge me anything. Eventually, I got lazy and they started recognizing me in my car. These parking midgets began to demand money, to which I'd pull out my empty pockets, perhaps setting free a lone moth. A cat and mouse game persisted for about a month until one day I was walking down the street to go into my friend's apartment. My car was parked in its usual spot. One of these fiendish parking midgets slinked over and stepped in between me and the front door, saying, "You owe me over $200 and you still keep parking here. I know you own that silver Honda and I'm calling the towing company right now." He read off my license plate number. "Fuck you," I said, and I went upstairs. Knowing a tow truck would be pulling in this lot to impound my car, I clambered out the third-story window in my friend's living room and onto a fire escape where I could perch over the parking lot and observe the devilish parking midgets standing their guard. I slowly scaled down the fire escape, which dropped me behind some dumpsters in the far end of the lot. I knew that if I could wait here until a train came by on the Brown Line, I could run to my car and start it without them hearing. A train came within minutes, and I knew it was my chance. I raced to my car, opening the passenger door from a crouch, jumped across to the wheel, and turned the ignition. Keep in mind, these L trains are very loud, and this one was literally right above this parking lot. Before that train had passed, I'd accelerated past the parking midgets and onto Wells Ave before they knew what hit them. And my car was not towed that day. Story 10. I have a pretty good list of these. 1. Used to get to the front of the line on a certain roller coaster at a theme park where you would exit the coaster at a different spot than where you boarded. But the loose article cubbies were right by the front of the line near the rear seats of the coaster. So, when I got to the ride initially and saw there was a huge line, I would walk to the exit, open the gate to the loose article station, then just get in line for the rear seats. Never had to wait more than 5 minutes to ride that ride. 2. At my college, there is a 15 min parking spot in the lot for the building that my major was in. That became my spot. Campus police tried ticketing me one time for it, but I appealed it because the ticket said I was parked in a faculty lot, but I informed them that I was in the 15 min spot, and they apologized and tore up the ticket. 3. I noticed that one of the buildings on my campus was vacant on the 3rd floor because they moved all of the offices to another building that had just been remodeled. Had my own bathroom and break room till I graduated. Nothing better than pooping at school and not having to worry about foot traffic. 4. In the same building, I noticed that the stairs went all the way to the roof. The only thing keeping people from walking out on the roof was a padlock that needed a key to be unlocked. So I went and bought my own padlock that came with a key and cut the existing one off with some bolt cutters and put my own lock on the door. I had rooftop access. I even took some folding chairs up there, and every now and then my friend and I would take a couple six-packs with us and sit on the roof for a few hours in the evening. It was easy and quick to get up to the roof because the elevator was right by the side entrance of the building and it led off right beside the rooftop door. Thought about taking a grill up there and having a cookout with a few friends, but just never got around to it. My chairs are still up there. I should probably go get them. I thought about passing the key down to a worthy sophomore or junior, but forgot to before I graduated. I suppose I could still go back to campus sometime and surprise some kid with a cool gift. Maybe someday. My lock might not even be there anymore. I felt like Ferris Bueller with my private lavatory and rooftop access.